good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
I don't see you online nowadays.
I'm online, not as much as I used to be.
Yeah, because I used to see you with Mo and Kay McCoy, and I was like, where'd she go?
Yeah, I just needed just a little bit of a break from
I feel
TikTok
that.
days.
I felt that it was the best part of when we didn't have TikTok. The
Right,
break.
right.
So, I want you to introduce yourself, the genre you write in, and anything you want everybody to know.
Well, I am Latrell R. Morris. I write horror, sci-fi, and paranormal romance. I've actually been writing since I was a kid, but then I stopped for a little while, and the pandemic is what actually prompted me to start writing again. So ever since 2020, I have been writing and I haven't stopped.
You, I went through your catalog, so I have questions, ma'am.
Sure.
Um, um, let's start with storytelling. As a black author, how does being a black woman influence the way you craft tension and suspense in your books?
So for me, especially writing in the horror genre, because it's a heavily white male genre,
Mm-hmm.
I tend to tell stories from, I guess you can say, a social point of view or things that are going on around us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to tell it in a way where it's not too controversial, but people will understand where I'm going.
Yeah. Do you feel that black writers in horror or speculative fiction, paranormal, and thrillers face unique challenges in publishing in this industry?
Absolutely.
Why?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because I think there's a stereotype about us that we don't read horror or we don't like horror,
Mm-hmm.
especially because a lot of us are in the earlier days and even in the 90s, a lot of us weren't in horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
Or
kind of
didn't
like
live one.
there's kind of like this stereotype that that's not for us. I know a lot of people say that black people usually read romance or urban fiction, but there are so many of us that actually are into horror, and I've been into horror since I was a little kid.
You look. I watched Creep Show.
Oh
I
yes.
used to watch Friday the 13th, the series, not just the
Mhm.
movie, the series.
Right.
Nightmare on Elm Street, the series on TV,
Mhm.
faithfully. When Michael Jackson came out with Thriller, I did not give a fuck just about the music. I love the zombies.
Right. Mhm. Mhm.
So, do you feel that actually what things do you find yourself returning to in your stories? That's what I want to know. What
Ooh.
things do you find yourself returning to? Because, like I said, I went through your catalog, man.
Mhm.
So I'm curious.
I would definitely say like revenge and karma type themes.
I can tell. I can tell.
Mhm.
So how do you balance like historical or cultural truths with the need for your stories to be gripping and imaginative storytelling?
Hmm. I guess I kind of do it in a way where you know that it's what's going on, like politically,
Mm-hmm.
racially, stuff like that. I try to tell it in a way where it's obvious what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to put like a little twist on it.
Okay. Okay. Are there any specific like black folklore or urban legends uh that inspire your books?
You know, I haven't read many folklore. I'm actually getting more into it because I would love to tell stories that have to do with like African American folklore. I
Mm-hmm.
actually have a couple of books that I purchased that I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to read because I guess in my house we really didn't tell stories like that. We didn't pass on those stories.
Mm.
So now I find myself as I get older wanting to get more into that stuff because to me I'm a African American history buff.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely want to know what's beyond what's being told.
Mm. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a household where even though it was religious, the practices of hoodoo was going on. So I got to know my own history as well as learning, you know, folklore, mythology, if they want to call it that, and
Right.
spirituality that is outside of Christianity. So it's that's why I think I'm so thrown into paranormal, speculative fiction, sci-fi, fantasy
Mhm.
because I grew up with that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So, what do you think mainstream horror and thriller fiction often gets wrong about black characters?
It's
Besides, we
the
can't survive.
yeah, it's the stereotypes. I'm we're such a multifaceted group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And when they throw those stereotypes like we're loud or, we can't survive or we're just, gonna act outrageous on
Mm-hmm.
something, it's like, okay, everybody isn't gonna do that. There are some people who have a calm head.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people who are gonna think about what's going on and assess and then act on it. So I just, I'm really sick of the stereotypes.
Yeah, it get ridiculous at times.
Right.
How does your background shape the way you build fear, mystery, suspense, paranormal, etc. in your books?
I guess you can say from watching a lot of horror movies
Mm-hmm.
in my youth, my favorite my favorite horror character is actually Freddy Krueger.
Mm.
Yeah, I consider him more of a supernatural
Mm-hmm.
than more of a slasher because the way he goes about it, he's in your dreams. He's
Right.
not just going out here like Jason does, just chasing you and slashing you. He's like, I'm gonna fool with you at your most vulnerable point. So just taking examples and inspiration from those type of movies is what helps me to write that suspense type of arena.
Mm. Because a lot of people don't understand paranormal, supernatural, and speculative fiction is a whole different. It's
Right.
different from each other.
Right.
Even sci-fi and fantasy, they're all different from each other. People just lump them up into one group.
Right,
Uh,
exactly.
what impact? Um, what was I gonna say? What impact do you hope your stories have on Black readers who may not often see themselves in these genres?
I hope that they, just I really hope that they do get a chance to see themselves. My horror characters, my main character is always first and foremost going to be a black woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I telling it from a black woman's perspective, which
Mm-hmm.
is why I wanted to do it Nova the Executioner.
Mm-hmm.
She she is somebody that people wouldn't suspect would be that type of being.
Mm-hmm.
Because statistically, black women are least likely to be, you know, I don't know what I can say here, but slashers, I guess you could say.
Unalivers.
Yeah, unalivers. So I wanted to tell it in a way where they're not going to suspect her. And when she makes that impact, they're like, oh, wait a minute. And so I just really hope that people can see that there are so many of us that love this genre. And
Mm.
I'm going to continue. My main characters are always going to be black women in whatever genre I write.
Do you feel that Black women's experiences being a unique perspective to thriller and supernatural storytelling? Do you think it's a different type of lens compared to the white patriarchal lens?
Oh, absolutely. I think that we see things so much differently, and
Mm-hmm.
we see not just from our perspective, but we can see on this side, what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And because, people don't really, guess you can say, give us the benefit of the doubt,
Mm-hmm.
we are able to see things, see the bad things that are coming.
Mm-hmm.
And so to tell it in a perspective where, okay, I can tell it from Black woman's perspective, but I can also tell it where other people can understand what's going on.
Right. I like that. How do you challenge stereotypes while writing um compelling, unpredictable, because your shit be unpredictable, unpredictable narratives? How do you challenge those stereotypes?
I try not to do the bad stereotypes. Well, I wouldn't say, I would try not to do stereotypes, period. But
Mm-hmm.
every once in a while, it'll come out in my writing. But I don't want us to continue to be lumped in as this is how Black people are, this is how Black women are, because it's just exhausting because a lot of us are not like that. I
Yeah.
growing up, I was a nerdy girl. I was
Mm-hmm.
quiet. I mean, I liked things outside of the stereotypical norm that they put on us. So I just want to telling it from that perspective. I just want people to see like there is more to us than what those negative stereotypes have been placed on us.
Yeah. What is it about the? Because you write, even though you write horror and thriller and paranormal, you kind of have a supernatural element to your writing as well.
Right.
So, what is it about the supernatural that draws you to storytelling, to be a
Yes.
storyteller?
For me, it's so far outside the norm.
Mm,
And I think that is what really drawn me to it because it's not everyday life.
yeah.
It's something that's like completely opposite of everyday life.
Hmm. How do you create like that eerie feel? Like, you know how when Jason, you hear the music, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? How do you how do you make that eerie and immersive atmosphere in your books that draw the readers in, but also terrify the fuck out of
Oh, that's a tough one for me because I still struggle with that. I
them?
think I'm more of the get to the point rather than like slow burn. So I'm trying to write it in a way where the build up, something's coming, but you don't know exactly what's coming.
Yeah.
But, the more I write, the more I read, the more I'm able to improve on my writing.
Mm.
So I would love to make a really, really scary story where people are just terrified to read it.
Are there any cultural or ancestral influences that shape your supernatural world building?
Yes. So, more so being from Florida.
Mm.
So I take a lot of stuff that born and raised in Florida, still currently live in Florida. I take a lot of stuff from the environment around me. I
Mm-hmm.
was born and raised in Miami,
Mm-hmm.
which was heavily African American, heavily Caribbean. I'm actually half African American, half Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of take from a little bit of that.
Mm. What role does spirituality play in your paranormal stories?
um, so I'm actually spiritual. I'm not religious.
Mm.
And yeah, as far as the karma stuff, because everybody loves to talk about karma, I wrote a whole book about karma. That that was is part of what played into wanting to write horror as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So how do you take familiar supernatural tropes, right,
Mhm.
and make them fresh and unique? Because every author or every writer, there's the trope has been done over and over again. How do you make it
Mhm.
fresh? How do you make it unique for you and your readers?
So with my character Nova,
Mm-hmm.
she's a all-seeing supernatural being
Mm-hmm.
that, she comes after people who have wronged other people, and well, at least in the first book, is she's gone after people who have unalived others.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say all-seeing being, instead of it being like her more as a strike down God figure, she's a come down right there, and she's gonna come right up to you. And the way that she goes about it, it's not just petty revenge. It is, I'm gonna take your soul and I'm just gonna leave you right there, and then that's that. They gonna have to figure out what's going on with you.
Damn. What what supernatural beings or phenomena intrigue you the most, and have they appeared in your work?
So I don't know if this is more supernatural or paranormal, but I love ghost stories.
Mm.
I love, absolutely love ghost horror. That's
Mm.
my actually my favorite. And I did write a ghost story in one of Karma and other stuff.
Yeah.
It was called Saint Nora, so it's basically about, the a slavery. It's a slavery cemetery, and of course gentrification is coming in.
Oh shit.
And so, because of that, they want to move the cemetery to somewhere else. And the people in the story are like, this is a bad idea. Don't do that. And once that starts happening, that's when the ghostly stuff starts happening. So I always wanted to write a ghost story, and that's what I was able to do.
Do you see the connection between real life black spiritual practices and supernatural elements in your fiction or just in fiction in general?
I do. I do. I definitely see a lot of it as far as like, don't wake the dead, don't mess with the dead, stuff like that. Um, even with trying to think of the word. If it comes back to me, I'll let you know. But
Okay.
it's a word now, I can't think of it, but I definitely see a lot of influence when it comes to horror and like black African American spirituality.
Mm. How do you make the paranormal feel real and grounded, and while keeping it uh what's the word I'm looking for, scary and suspenseful?
I don't know if mine is even realistic.
Well, have you ever experienced something paranormal in real life and it kind of made trigger your mind into a story?
um, I've experienced something where I saw something move and it wasn't there. I've seen shadows,
Yeah.
and I haven't gotten the chance to write about like shadow people yet because actually they freak me out. Yeah, there are certain horror aspects that I'm just like, I'm not going to touch right now because it's a lot. But I've seen stuff like that. I've
Mm.
experienced stuff moving. My mother actually told me a story of her going to a neighbor's house down the street when she was
Mhm.
a little girl, and that neighbor had just passed away. And
Mhm.
she was looking at the table, and her mother was standing there. She asked her mom to move, and when her mother moved, that shadow that was on the table never moved.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that
Whew.
story always stuck with me. She told me that when I was a little girl, and I've never forgotten that.
All right, shit. Well, damn, mom. Scared the life out your ass. God damn. Do you prefer subtle psychological horror in your paranormal, supernatural, speculative fiction, thriller writing, or do you lean towards terrifying, point blank, period?
Oh, I definitely like psychological more.
Why?
Yeah. I guess because I've always been like in my head a thinker, and I feel like with psychological horror,
Mm,
it allows you to think, and you're like coming up with all these conclusions on what could have happened or why it happened. I have a
yeah.
story in Karma, the book. It's called Fat Chance, and
Mm-hmm.
it does deal with a lot of psychological familiar trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be told in two. You can see it from different perspective because the main character, she was experiencing trauma from her mother, but she never really, admitted that it was trauma. But the way she went about it is, okay, I'm going to defy my mother.
Mm,
And that's when the stuff starts happening to her
mm-hmm.
because she brought that psychological trauma onto other people.
Mm. So, how do you craft stories that are suspenseful that keeps readers on the edge of their seats? Because you kind of do that, but
Ooh, I don't know. I have so much going on in my head. I just start writing. I don't know. Stuff just comes out.
so what's your approach to writing like complex stories, unpredictable plots? What is your process with that?
I guess I think of something that is kind of like a everyday subject or everyday topic, something that will happen. And I want to try and turn it on its head. Like I'll think about what's an outrageous way that I can get to like the conflict of it.
Mm,
So I don't like I said, I have so much stuff going on in my head, like stories I haven't even written that's like a little crazy.
there's nothing
But
wrong with being crazy.
and I kind of held back on my earlier stories, but going forward, I'm like, I'm just gonna lay it all out there.
So, how do you build tension and misdirection in your
Mm,
stories with your characters?
misdirection.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard one. Cause I'm not even sure I've misdirected anything.
Like they think this is just a wholesome character. Like they just can't even imagine or phantom this person or this object or this thing doing anything other than what it was supposed to, like robots.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, that character.
Yeah, now you tracking. Now you tracking what I'm saying. Yeah, that robot, the 3 books, robots. That's
Yeah,
why
that
I don't like
my
total
mother's
robots.
least favorite character. She hates that robot.
Yeah. So how do you build that tension and misdirection when it comes to thriller writing? Because in that robot series, it was
Mhm.
like, oh, then it was like, oh no.
Right. I with that story, I wanted the robot is supposed to be helpful. It's supposed to help people, get out of their loneliness stint or just give them company.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about, what would really happen if a robot thought to itself? Like a robot was ever able to think to itself, think for itself. And I said, you know what? Let me make this a little bit, outside of the norm. Let me put a little fear in it because, there are a lot of people who say, they're scared about AI because you never know what can happen. And I say, you know what? I'm going to play on that. And so the companion or the helpful bot was actually not so helpful.
It's giving Tesla need to stop. It's giving iRobot. It's giving
Mhm.
the end of the world is a nigh. type
Right.
thing. I look. I already don't like the robot idea in the first
Yep.
goddamn place, but I'm gonna stop reading y'all scary ass books when it comes to these robots because that should be having me looking over my shoulder and shit in the corner somewhere. I
Right.
don't like that shit.
I'm gonna be like, if that ever comes to a point where they're everywhere, I'm gonna be like Will Smith's character in I, Robot. I don't want it in my house. No, I'm
Mm-mm,
gonna stay old school.
absolutely not.
Mhm.
So, what makes a great thriller horror protagonist, and how do you develop them?
I would say maybe a great character would be somebody that's multifaceted. They're
Mm,
not just linear, one note. Oh, I'm just gonna. This is all I'm gonna do. I want them to be able to, you know, be able to get to what they want to do, but then branch off. And people are like, okay, maybe this character isn't like that, but then
mm,
surprise them in the end. But this character is like that. So I like to make characters that are that way because it I find it more interesting than characters who's just going in a straight line. Like, to bring up again Jason, he's just going after slashing people. Like, that's
yeah,
just what he does.
yeah, I'm pretty much over him.
Yeah,
How
man,
do
Michael Myers. I'm like,
yeah, and Saw because they done did Saw one too many times. This is giving Fast and Furious of horror.
yeah,
Um,
I after the third one I was done.
yeah. So how do you use fear and paranoia to heighten the suspense of your stories?
I play on everyday fear.
Mm,
Everyday fear. Like the fear of robots taking over. So
mm-hmm,
many people have that fear, especially now that AI is becoming more and more prevalent.
mm-hmm.
People are like, okay, what's going to happen in the end once these things start being in our everyday lives? So I like to build on that everyday fear that people have.
I mean, these people voted for the morons that's doing it, so therefore,
Mm,
you know.
yeah, it's
Um,
gonna be interesting.
hmm, this is gonna be a long 4 years. Um, do you find it? Um, do you find it difficult to write a compelling villain or a strong hero in your stories?
Sometimes, because my main characters are black women, and I'm so over the strong black women stereotype and stuff like that. I think, and I said, okay, I don't want to make them too strong,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, I don't want to make them too docile.
Mm,
So I fight with myself constantly with that. And, sometimes they are a little strong,
mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to make them a little more, I wouldn't say meek, but a little more calm. So where
Mm.
they don't have to be the leader or the strong one all the time.
So you talked about revenge being a trope that you like to use. What other tropes do you like to use across the board, or just one you haven't really got to, but you really want to use?
I also, in my paranormal romance, I have fated mates or fated
Mm,
connections with Coreyville. The character, she is a detective, and
mm,
the place that she goes is riddled with crypto creatures, or I guess you can say, like, her fated mate is actually a lichen, which is like a werewolf, but they have more autonomy than a werewolf.
I am so happy that you know what you're talking about. Because I hate when people say that it's a werewolf. Bitch, it's a lichen.
Right, right. Yeah, I had to research that because I'm like, I don't know that werewolves are like, once the full moon comes, they can't do anything. I said, I thought about Underworld. and how they were
Mm,
talking about lichens. I said, let me research the difference between the two, and I said definitely lichen is what I want to use versus a werewolf because I want
yeah.
them to have that little bit of control over what they can do.
Yep.
Mhm.
You just made my day with that. Thank you for knowing your shit.
Yep, but
Um, can you now? What's the biggest challenges in keeping a plot um unpredictable and fresh in your stories? What's the one thing that you just like? I have to keep it fresh, but I got to make it unpredictable as well. What you doing?
trying to mix genres, like trying to do a sci-fi horror, doing
Mm.
a horror romance, which is what I'm working on right now, a horror romance.
A horror romance.
Yes.
I like that because I've only heard of gothic romance. I
Mm.
haven't heard of horror. I like that. I
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm.
So
So
how?
yeah, just mixing genres.
So what is a horror romance? What? How does that work? I'm intrigued. How does that work? What is a horror romance?
For me, it's the central plot revolves around horror,
Mm-hmm.
but there are aspects of romance in it. So
Mm-hmm.
the horror part is right now it I was gonna just say it's revolves around some creatures,
Mm-hmm.
but the reason that the creatures are there is for the main character. I'm not gonna give too much away, but there are a lot of horror elements on it in it because the way they're going about it is, how can I say this? Destroy anybody that gets in my way.
So touch her and die.
Pretty much.
Oh, okay. I'm all for that. A lot of gore.
Oh, it's not a lot of gore.
Oh.
I try not to do a lot of gore because I don't like gory horror.
Okay.
Yeah. I try to stick more towards the supernatural, paranormal elements of it.
Okay. I can see that. I can see that. So how do you think black horror, supernatural, and thriller and paranormal fiction are evolving nowadays?
I definitely see us more in the genre, especially with Jordan Peele.
Mm.
And his stuff is very like it's psychological.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And I want to see more of that because it shows people that we are not just one note
Mm.
and we can do a lot of things. I would love to see more supernatural and paranormal horror from black people. It's one of my favorite movies is actually Vampire in Brooklyn, which
Girl,
came,
shut your mouth.
yes, which came out a long time ago. Like what was that, early 90s? I'm
Yeah.
showing my age, but
Girl, that was one of my favorites besides Blade.
yeah. So I want to see more stuff like that. And also I'm going to throw back to Tales from the Hood. My favorite story on there will always be the one with the dolls. Like
Always. 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 It's the ending for me. They didn't even know they were dead.
mhm. Yep.
That I love that. You
Mhm.
got good taste, girl. You got good taste.
Thank
What
you.
what do you see as the biggest misconception about black authors in, this genre? Because we have had Octavia Butler, Zora Neale Hurston, because even though Zora Neale Hurston wrote a lot of classic African American literature, she also wrote things that were considered to be in more of a horror type thing,
Right.
because it was more of telling. I can't say horror, but there were dark elements to it.
Right.
So what is the misconception about especially black women in horror? Black women, black men, the misconception of us writing us the biggest misconceptions besides, we die or we don't get it
Mhm.
in horror.
Definitely those two that we die and we don't get it. Like because people don't see a lot of us in those movies.
Mm. And I,
And go ahead.
oh no, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're fine.
No, I was just gonna say that I just wish that people would learn other cultures outside of the, I guess, big cultures they say they learn, because there's so much history in Black culture across the
Right.
diaspora, and so much mythology, so much uh folklore, that it runs deep from the inception of this planet deep.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
I just wish people would stop and just really learn our culture
Right.
before assuming we have none.
Right. Yep.
So how do you balance fast-paced storytelling, because you said you like to get to the point,
Right.
with with deeper social, psychological issues that we deal with, and themes?
So I definitely focus a lot on the psychological stuff and what's going on. That's the main focal point.
Mm,
But I like to do it in a way where it's not long and drawn out
mm,
because I prefer to write shorter books. My books are a little shorter than most people. Because of that, I don't want to write, I guess you can say as an example, I don't want to write about the color of a wall for 2 pages. Like just an example. I like to let's get to the point. Here's what's going on in the main story and let's just let's get right into it.
right.
Mhm.
I have read some horror books and thrillers and psychological books that, you know, they were just long winded for no fucking reason. And
Mhm.
then the mayhem only lasted 2 pages.
Right, right.
So I didn't like that.
Mhm.
So what makes thrillers written by Black authors unique compared to the mainstream thriller fiction?
I would say most of our life experience,
Mm,
like the discrimination, the oppression, the marginalization, all of that, we have a unique perspective against someone who is white
mm-hmm,
because we go through more and we
mm,
don't I would say the majority of us don't bury our heads in the sand. We look and we see what's around us and what's happening to us and happening to the world, and we're just like we're more I think we're more multifaceted than any in I would say more multifaceted than white people.
I could see that.
Mhm.
Don't worry, you can speak your mind on here. Ain't nobody gonna take offense. You know,
I
this
don't want
is
to offend anybody.
it's a teach. If anybody has been on my lives, they understand this is a teachable moment. This is blackity black black black. And if you are white, you are a guest in my house. So clean your shoes off, take them off at the door, and sit down and learn you something.
Right.
So don't trip. Just speak your mind. So what in your mind, are there any underappreciated Black authors that write thriller and horror you think deserve more attention?
I definitely think N.K. Jemisin
Mm,
deserves more attention. Um, I've seen, see, growing up, I didn't know who Octavia Butler was.
mm,
I just recently heard of her like a couple of years ago, but I
child.
still feel like even though she's passed along, her books still deserve a lot more attention, especially the Parable of the Sawyer.
Have you read
And
Kindred?
I'm sorry,
Have you read Kindred?
not what, yeah, I read Kendra actually. I read it a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Uh, that woman she could write her ass off.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of people don't understand that speculative fiction, they only think of Star Wars. They think
Right.
of what is Star Trek.
Hmm.
They think of that and they think of white men, once again,
Right, exactly.
rapists.
Hmm.
They don't think about the fact that it's black people writing speculative fiction, that the African American mother of speculative fiction is Octavia Butler.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They'll be like, oh, Edgar Allan Poe. But Edgar Allan Poe wrote gothic horror.
Right,
That's
exactly.
a totally different genre.
Hmm.
So it's just people don't want to give black people their flowers, unfortunately. And all
Right.
we can do is just push it
Hmm.
and be loud about it. You
Right.
know.
And
That's,
even in school, it's like growing up in high school, middle school, the stories that we would read, they were all white people. Like
mm,
our curriculum was white people. I'm like, okay, but what about us? Especially me going to mostly predominantly black schools, you would think that they would throw in more black books to read, but no, they didn't do that. So I think that a lot of kids nowadays, or I don't know how it is nowadays. I haven't been in school since 2004. That's when I graduated,
mm.
but I think they could really benefit from getting that diverse readership, because it's like we're learning about all these classics, but all those classics are lily white. And you know, can we spread out the love or something?
It's insane to me because I having children and
Mm,
seeing their reading lists is appalling.
mm,
It's appalling. And I, as a parent or auntie, uncle, whatever, I would say constantly have black books in your house so you can teach your family because the
right,
schools are not going to teach them.
right. Hmm.
Unfortunately, that's for them to graduate and go to the next level in education, but it's
Right.
also good to keep it in your household. You know what I'm saying? I I hate that a lot of people don't know who Octavia Butler is. Hell, there's a lot of people who don't even know who Zora Neale Hurston is,
Right. Hmm.
which is insane. Some people don't even know who Maya Angelou is, which is
And
also
that's
insane.
crazy because she's one of the popular ones.
But the thing about it is they can tell you everything about Harry Potter.
Right.
They can
Hmm.
tell you everything about Twilight.
Yep.
They can tell you everything about what's that Sarah J. dumbass. They could tell you everything about them, but they cannot tell you books that are written by their own people in genres that are similar or
Right.
the same.
Hmm.
And it's just so. And these are adults.
Right.
These
Hmm.
are adults that are just like, oh my god. Because the thing about it is, I ain't gonna get on my soapbox too long. Because one of you bitches will probably try to report me about what I'm about to say. But I hadn't made a video about it. But I'm gonna say it right here. Sorry, ma'am. Sorry. Um, y'all getting on your soapbox talking about black authors and what they don't do, and you a black person is anti-black.
Hmm.
It's anti-black, and y'all the motherfuckers Harriet would have left. You're
Exactly.
also the motherfuckers who mother took the choice not to swallow. So I just want to say, if you are getting on this here app and talking shit about black authors across the board, especially indie black authors who are using their own money,
Mm. Oh yes.
their own resources to do all of this, and you get on your soapbox to do a click rage bait video against your own people, baby, there is not a lower level of hell you can go to.
Right. Hmm.
It's disrespectful, it is disheartening, and it makes you look like a Sambo idiot.
Right. Right.
Leave these authors alone. If you don't want to read the genre that this black author is writing, don't read it. Don't make a video about it. Don't be disrespectful. Learn what constructive criticism is. Learn how a DM works. Email something or just shut the fuck up.
Right.
Because y'all spend so much money into y'all crafts, and I
Right.
just hate seeing people come on here and disrespect y'all.
Right.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But the thing about it is, us making videos back towards them, here comes, oh my God, I'm the victim, I'm the bully. And then they look
Hmm.
for the white saviors to come save them.
Right, right,
And then we become the bad guys.
right,
I just said don't give them no energy, but I understand being angry and wanting to confront the anger and tell them about themselves. But the thing about it is, our own people can also be our own worst enemies.
right, exactly.
So,
Yeah. I definitely saw that video today. I
mm,
blocked her and I'm just like in my head, I've been wanting to make videos going off on people. I'm like, let me not cause let me not show y'all that side of me. But in my head, I'm like, y'all will do anything to tap dance with these people.
mm,
It's really sad. It's really sad that you would. I always say that the quickest way to get views on TikTok is to rage bait against black people, especially
mm.
black women. And it may not go the way that they want, and because this definitely didn't go the way that she wanted.
I'm trying to figure out how you a teacher. It must be scarce nowadays in the education system because
Mhm.
you a teacher, you're teaching someone's children,
Right.
and you don't understand character development, plot goes hand in hand, and
Mhm.
then say, oh yeah, they work 10 times harder. You know this. You
Right.
understand they got a plot and character development, but you told them to work harder.
Right.
Several things can be true. One, you are black, yes, but two, you are dumb as fuck.
Right. Mhm.
I commend y'all authors, and a lot of us do.
Mhm.
It's only a few of dumbasses in our culture that speak loudly, but they don't speak for all of us.
Right.
And they generalize themselves, and they
Mhm.
push themselves out of spaces they said they want to be in.
Right.
So, like I said, I commend you guys. I enjoy y'all writing. I enjoy everything that y'all do. And if I ever had a problem with you, I'd rather contact you one on one
Right. Mhm.
off this app in your DM. Hey, here's my number. Call me. I want to holler at you for a minute about X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
Rather than make a fucking video.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So fucking
And then call it constructive criticism. That wasn't constructive at all.
girl.
At all.
At this point, I just want to say that dumb bitch, blue bitch, red bitch, stupid bitch. You get me, bitch? That bitch.
I
but
get you.
but no, if you could adapt one of your books into a movie, what would it be? Which book would it be and why?
I would say, hmm. I'm trying to decide between Nova the Execution of Justice or the Friend trilogy. Because
Why?
those are my two favorite books. Those are my first ones I wrote. Um, Probably uh the Friend trilogy.
Why?
Because I think it deals with a lot of what's going on today. It deals with the loneliness epidemic. It deals with AI.
Mm.
So I think it would be a good story to be told today.
Okay. Okay. I, on the other hand, Coreyville, what the paranormal one? Rose's,
The Secrets at Rose Manor.
um, those two.
Really?
That's, you know why? Because I am so much into, because Coreyville reminds me of Haven.
Mm,
That show Haven. I don't know if you saw it. Sci-Fi. It's a show called Haven, and it kind of is got that Haven feel to it. And then I like anything paranormal.
really?
Anything paranormal. I don't give a fuck. Anything
Mhm,
paranormal.
mhm.
It's me. It's me.
Got it.
Um,
Got it.
What advice can you give to other Black indie authors looking to make an impact in these genres because of how the cards are stacked against y'all when it comes to paranormal, horror? thriller, psychological, super speculative fiction, what advice can you give to them?
I will always say write the story that you want to write. Stick to what you want to read because your audience will be there. They will find you. Be
Mm,
true to yourself. Be true to your stories, your characters, etc. Just write the book. That's write the book and get it out there. Somebody or somebody's will be there to read it.
absolutely. Absolutely. I want you to tell everybody where they can find your books. Give them a book to start with and why, and your socials.
Okay. Well, you can find my books at my website, latrellmorris.com. I'm also on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. I actually have a couple of ebooks in the libraries as well. So you can check out Livy and Overdrive. Also, the book I would say to start with, I always say start with Nova, the Executioner of Justice, because that's my first book. And to me, she is my favorite character. So I would say start there. And you can branch off after that, depending on which genre you are more into. If you're more into sci-fi, you can go into the Friend trilogy. If you're more into romance, you can do Coreyville or The Secrets Inside Rose Manor. Or if you just want to stick strictly to horror, the Nova series, and then you have Karma.
So, what do you want to tell Black female authors that are in this genre that if you could tell the masses something that would encourage them to something, just tell them something about this genre and being Black?
I would say definitely don't give up. Our time is coming. I wholeheartedly believe that our time is coming. And our stories will be read, our stories will be viewed. We're going to get to where we need to go. So don't give up, keep going.
I feel that. And for the Black male authors in this genre, what's your words of wisdom to them?
Absolutely, same thing. It's going to be our time. You got to keep going, you got to keep pushing. Our stories will be read.
Okay. And I just want to say to any authors out there, including yourself, y'all don't have to go to their table to make a seat. Make your own table.
Right,
Make your own table and have them want a seat at your table, because y'all deserve everything. So don't be stressed out because the numbers aren't adding up or the pages aren't getting turned or the books, whatever. Don't give up because um y'all are talented, y'all have stories to tell, so tell them. You know what I'm saying? So don't give up because there's people out there looking for you. There are people who love horror that are Black. There are people who love psychological thrillers that are Black. There are people who love paranormal and sci-fi and all that stuff that are Black, and they are your audience. And if anybody tell you it's a white boy or white woman's game, they are lying. We
yep,
have so many stories to tell. Don't let nobody tell you different. Not even our own people.
right, exactly.
And don't let this internet get you down. Because you know what? Sometimes you just gotta take a break. Step back
Right.
and focus on your craft. With that being said, I appreciate you coming on here. I
Thank you
enjoyed
so
you. I y'all go get her books.
much.
Go get her books. Go get her books. Support her. Support all Black authors and POC authors, and stay away from the Sambos and the Coons during Black History Month.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.
You are so welcome. See y'all.